Master, worshipful officers and brethren, it is my privilege, for I esteem it as such, to have been entrusted with the proposing of this important toast. A toast to our guest of honor this evening, our worthy, respected, yes, he is that, he is more than that to us, he is our beloved brother in the craft, Jonathan Smalley. And in attempting to do justice to the proposing of this toast, he, many others whom I see present, and I, will be living again many of our experiences of 40, 50 years ago. For tonight, I find myself not only in a meditative, but also in a reminiscent frame of mind. And as we turn over the tablets of memory, we of the old brigade shall see again the faces, hear again the voices, watch again the movements and the figures of that fine Masonic body of brethren who in the periods of the years to which I have referred delivered your signs and your passwords, recited your ritual, and paced the floor of this lodge room in the delivery of the charges. And what an august body of Masons they were. They were men of substance, and I use not that term now in its usual application to things material. For few, if any, were wealthy, but, brethren, they were men of substance on a higher level. They relied not merely on a knowledge of its signs and its passwords, nor on their ability to give a word-perfect recital of its ritual. Although they could do that, none could do it better. But to the daily task, to all the activities of their lives, they put into practice the principles and the teachings which Masonry inculcates. They have passed to the Grand Lodge above. But they have left us a goodly heritage, a standard in Masonry worthy of emulation. And well for us, brethren, if, when the time comes, that we too shall be called upon to make our departure from this theatre of action, if those whom we leave behind are able to say of us as truthfully as we tonight can say of them, they practiced what they professed as members of the Masonic craft. They fulfilled the vows they made when they knelt at the footstool of Masonry. I said they passed to the Grand Lodge above, but not all, brethren, for we tonight are privileged to have in our midst in the flesh one of the most prominent amongst them, in the person of our guest of honor this evening, our beloved brother in the craft, Jonathan Smalley. Something over 50 years ago, maybe 55, a notice board was placed outside the walls of Camp Chambers in High Street of this borough, worded, Jonathan Smalley, Solicitor. May have been barrister and solicitor. In the streets appeared an athletic figure, black hair, flashing black eye, alert gait, a person in the morning of his manhood. To those who knew him not, on inquiring from one of the Cornish miners, many of whom used to assemble in the streets at that time, you were informed he to be young Smalley from California Gully. He to be the young fellow who set up here as a lawyer, one of those clever legal gentry. They need to be careful when dealing with one of they fellows. Well, brethren, it was not long before I found it necessary to seek his legal service. But don't raise your eyebrows. It was not to defend me for any misdemeanor of the law, but simply to transfer a piece of land that I had recently purchased. Now, pound notes at that time were a very scarce commodity with me. I don't know that things have altered very much in that direction today. I may have been able to accumulate a few in the meantime, but unfortunately, my wife keeps a hold of the purse strings. And so, to use a Cornish phrase, I'm very much as you were before you were in that regard. However, because of this, some well-minded person suggested that I should not go to the expense of engaging a legal gentleman to transfer this property. But although I had not then been taught to be cautious, as we understand the term, I must have had an inerrant streak, because I decided it was better to be sure than sorry. And so I wended my way up the staircase to this little back room to meet young Smalley, the legal gentleman from California Gully. Now, you can visualize the position, brethren. Here was young Richards ascending that staircase with the warning of the Cornish miner ringing in his ears, be careful with these gentries. And to make matters worse, as I climbed that staircase, there came to my mind lines of a poem that I learnt in my childhood in the old Royal Reader, which was then our source of education at the state schools. Those of you of the older generation will remember the lines, but for the benefit of those present who do not know them, in order to illustrate my point, if my memory will stand to me, I will endeavor to recite them. Will you walk into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. 'Tis the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair. There you have it. And I've got many a curious thing to show you when you're there. And so, with the Cornish miner's warning ringing in my ears and the remembrance of that staircase leading into the spider's web, you can understand it was not with any small degree of fear that I ascended the staircase into that little back room. But, brethren, all my fears were groundless, all my warnings were needless, for the only similarity between that office and the spider's web was the staircase, and the only cleverness the legal gentleman displayed was to save me some few pounds, which otherwise I may have become involved. For immediately I made known the nature of my calling. He said, Robert, with the office boy, go down to the municipal. But, brethren, all my fears were groundless, all my warnings were needless, for the only similarity between that office and the spider's web was the staircase, and the only cleverness the legal gentleman displayed was to save me some few pounds, which otherwise I may have become involved. For immediately I made known the nature of my calling. He said, Robert, with the office boy, go down to the municipal chambers, discover if there are any arrears of rates on this property. And sure enough, Robert returned with the information, £3.12. Now, brethren, it has been said and well said that first impressions are lasting, and I am pleased to state that that first pleasurable impression with our guest of honor, the succeeding years have failed to diminish, and they remain undimmed. But, brethren, the point I want to emphasize in telling you that story is this, that right along from that small beginning up to the dimensions of that legal practice of which he is today the senior partner, right along that line of years which has intervened from that meager start up to its present standard of development, never has the breath of doubt or suspicion regarding his integrity ever wafted across the portals to his legal chambers. To that profession he has applied the principles of Masonry, And to that profession and to Masonry, he has been and still is a credit and an ornament. It was not long after he became thus established in a legal practice here that the burgesses realized there was a man of merit in their midst, and so he was approached and prevailed upon to submit himself for election to the borough council, to which he was duly appointed. After 5 or 6 years applying to those duties the characteristic thoroughness of Smalley, he was appointed by those who sat in close association with him to the mayoral chair, and during his term and at its termination, the unanimous verdict was that he had discharged the duties which the occupancy of that position had entailed with dignity and distinction. To all his civic activities, he had applied the principles of Masonry. And now, brethren, we come to the event which we tonight signalize and celebrate. The 50th year since his elevation to the worshipful master's chair of this lodge. Some 5 or 6 years previously, he had been initiated into the lodge, and during that brief period, he had passed through its subordinate offices and was then elevated to the highest position in the power of this lodge to bestow upon him. During his term of occupation, he established a standard of efficiency which subsequent holders have been wise if they made it their ambition to emulate, and fortunate indeed if they succeeded. During the 50 years which have elapsed since that date, his interest in this lodge has never abated. All who have sought his advice have received encouragement and inspiration. And so tonight, our brother, we congratulate you on having attained which, if not unique, is a most unusual occurrence. And so tonight, with all the sincerity of our souls, we offer you our congratulations. And now, brethren, that ability which has enabled him to achieve success in the various spheres to which I have alluded, that ability has appealed to our minds, but he has achieved success in a much rarer realm, for his reliability, his humility, his uniform courtesy, his brotherliness, his qualities have appealed to and enshrined him in the citadel of our hearts. These of his qualities constitute goodness, and goodness is superior to greatness, for goodness will live when greatness is dead. For it has been well said that to live in the hearts of those you love, and may I add, of those by whom you are loved, is not to die. Our brother, 'tis there you dwell. And brethren, if there be one thing in life that a man ought to value more highly than another, it is to have the inward conviction, arising, if you will, from an outward demonstration of this character, that one has the goodwill and esteem of those with whom the duties and the pleasantries of life have brought him in contact from day to day. That our guest of honor this evening is entitled to entertain such a conviction is abundantly evident by this spontaneous atmosphere of goodwill towards him which pervades this gathering tonight. And brethren, if I were fortunate enough to occupy a similar position in the hearts and minds of those with whom I associate, I should not merely count it a present pleasure, but I should assess it as a future asset. All of us, or at least the great majority of us, assembled around these festive boards tonight have lived sufficiently long to know that life is not all sunshine, that it has its corresponding shadows, and when and if those periods of gloom incidental to life should come upon him, periods from which perhaps no life is entirely exempt, then when such come, if come they shall, may the remembrance of tonight's proceedings help to chase away those evil spectres and bid him rise and think of past yet happier days.